In today's doubles lesson, we're going to talk about the wide serve in the deuce court. Now, this mostly applies for right-handed players or right-handed servers. And I wanted to do this lesson because a reader named Ryan reached out after last week's video on Serena Williams' double strategy. And I'll link to that video below so you can check it out. But there was a point where Serena served wide in the deuce court. Ons Jabeur kind of stayed over towards the doubles alley, and I said that I would have liked to see her pinch towards the middle to cut off that return. And Ryan reached out and said, doesn't that expose her to getting beat down the line with a forehand return for a winner? Because Serena wouldn't have been able to get over there to cover that. And Ryan's correct, but there is a lot of nuance to this that I want to highlight and kind of dive in. And this is going to help you understand also just the complexities of every single situation in doubles. A lot of coaches out there will teach you to follow the ball if you're the server's partner or just when you're at the net in general. And I don't like that advice because it's just kind of a blanket statement. And statements like that just don't always apply in doubles. Using variety and mixing up your movement, especially at the net, is definitely a much better strategy. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit here today. So we're looking at a match from the Canadian Open in 2021. This was in Toronto. In the near court, you have Nikola Mektic serving, and his partner at the net is Mate Pavic. They've been probably the best doubles team in the world the last couple of years. A close second would be the team on the other side of the net. So you have Joe Salisbury returning, who's the number one ranked doubles player in the world right now. And he played at the University of Memphis. And then his partner, Rajiv Ram, who played at Illinois, is at the net on the far side. I have had him on the podcast as well, which was a really great episode. And I'll link to that below this video as well. So we're going to show you a few points here with Mektic serving, and I'll kind of break them down. But what are the things we should consider when we're hitting this wide serve in the deuce court? So a couple of things that I like to think about are going to be the pace and the spin of the serve. I'll talk about here in a second, a little bit more here in a second. Is it a first versus a second serve? I want to be watching where does the serve land. So is it landing deep in the box or is it kind of a short angle? Is anybody on the court left-handed? So there's a lot that you want to adjust if somebody is left-handed. And then also look at the score. You don't want to take on too much risk. Usually you'll give up that down the line winner, which is a low percentage shot. If you're ahead in the score, but if you're behind, you might not want to take on that much risk. And then think about what you've done so far when you've called that serve. So if you poach early, you have to know you're giving up that down the line return, versus if you poach late as they make contact, you're probably going to get a volley, which might be a good or a bad thing, depending on how good that forehand return is, how good you are at the net, and so on. So there's a lot to consider. I'll break down each of these points. So without further delay, here is the first point. Okay, so you could see this serve wasn't super wide, but Salisbury was leaning a little bit to his left, it seemed like. So this one lands in the kind of corner, kind of closer to the service line, and Salisbury chips it kind of down the line. So here, Pavic, they have an advantage here because Pavic is left-handed, so he is able to cover a lot more ground over there if Salisbury does return this down the line, which he does. It's a first serve, which is crucial, and Salisbury hits a pretty weak return. It looks like he's maybe trying to lob down the line here, which is a great strategy if the net player were right-handed, because then they'd have a high backhand volley in this case. We've talked about that return in recent weeks, and I'll link to that video on how to hit that, what Will Hamilton calls the parachute return down the line. I'll link to that video below as well. But in this case, Pavic is left-handed, so he has a relatively easy high ball here to kind of get on offense. And what ends up happening here is Rajiv Ram just has some great reactions on that last ball that goes down the line for the winner. But overall, I would say Mektic and Pavic are going to probably win that point 6 to 8 out of 10 times. So they played that point the right way. And in this case, on the wide serve, Mektic went with a little bit more pace to kind of force Salisbury to return that ball down the line, and Pavic was ready for it as he shifted to his left. So they played the point the right way, even though they lost the point there. So this next one is a little bit different, and I'm going to show you that one, and then we'll talk through it. So this one was more of a spin serve. So I mentioned earlier that the server, when you're calling this wide serve, you want to use a lot of variety. So if you've hit a spin serve a few times, you might go with a little bit of pace, or if you are typically hitting a serve with more pace, you might hit with a little bit more spin, just to give that returner a different look. Now, those are going to create two different things. So if you hit with more pace, the returner is more likely to catch the ball late. So when you're calling the wide serve, they're going to hit their forehand a little bit later, and it's more likely to go down the line if you're hitting it harder. Now, if you're hitting it with more spin, they're more likely to get their swing started early and catch it kind of out in front, and it's more likely to go cross court. So what I like to do on the more spinny one is have my partner aim deep kind of to that corner of the service box. And when I'm at the net, I'm not looking at the ball, but I'm looking at the returner. And as soon as they're about to make contact, that's when I'll poach. So that's how the delayed poach works. If you leave too early in this case, and it's more of a spinny slow serve, it's going to be a little bit easier for the opponent to redirect that ball down the line because they've seen you leave, and it's an easy kind of slight adjustment with that forehand return. And in this case, we'll play this point back. Mektic hits a really good serve out wide, and Pavic is ready for an easy kind of cleanup volley. And you can see it definitely doesn't go as far down the line as the previous ball. Because Salisbury has to catch it out in front so much because it was a lot slower serve. So pretty straightforward there, but that's how you want to think about spin versus pace on this wide serve, as well as movement at the net from that net player. So this next point is actually a second serve. So you'll see Mektic misses the first serve and they stay in I formation, and this is a little bit surprising to me. So they call this at 30 all. It's only 1 all in the set, so not a huge kind of pressure moment, but they did lose the first set. So to call a wide serve here on a second serve out of the I formation does seem a little risky to me. But like I said, this has been a secondary tactic for them. So it's most likely that they know Salisbury is going to be kind of sitting on a body or backhand return here. And maybe they've read that he has been stepping forward a lot on these second serves, which is exactly what he does here. So you can see he made contact well inside the baseline. And if Mektic can just get that return deep in the box to the forehand side, especially if he's been consistently hitting his second serve up the tee, that's going to be a very, very difficult adjustment for Salisbury because he's going to be ready for the backhand return. He's going to be ready for potentially a body serve. And this one all of a sudden is on him very quickly because it's a second serve with good depth. He doesn't have a lot of time to prepare because he stepped so far inside the baseline. And he's quickly trying to hit a forehand return that sails long. So they kind of gave him that. It is a little bit risky at a 30-all point, but these guys are really good, and they probably had a good read on that as far as what Salisbury had been doing on those second serves. So in this case, it's always good to give up some of the alley until they start to beat you consistently down the line. So hopefully this helped you kind of understand all the nuances and all the variables that you have to take into consideration when you're serving out wide in that deuce court. If you have any specific questions, definitely reach out. You can always email me, will@thetennistribe.com, or leave comments below as well. But we'll link to everything that I mentioned below, and I will see you in the next video. If you want to become a smarter doubles player and start winning more matches, then join the Tennis Tribe Doubles Strategy newsletter. Every single Thursday, I'll send you a new doubles tip or tactic that you can use in your very next match. And when you join, you're going to get a free guide on how to play with more confidence and start dominating at the net in doubles. My name's Will. I'm the founder of the Tennis Tribe, and over the last 5 years, I've worked with players at every level of the game, from USTA 3.0 players all the way to Division I college programs, as well as some of the top 10 doubles players in the world. And on Thursdays, with this strategy newsletter, I share that knowledge and advice that I've gained over the years with you. So to sign up, you can go to thetennistribe.com. And again, you'll get that free net play guide when you join.